So my plan for my first business was I didn't have one. I didn't have a proper strategy. So do you know what happened in my first business? I ended up with my life having to fit round the business. So I'd come to this time in a year, and I'd be feverishly looking for work to come in to pay the bills, because that's what you have to do when it's your only source of income. And I'd say yes to all the work first and then try and fit my holidays around it. Wrong way to do it, because you end up being totally governed by your business. I swore blind when I started this business that the business would work around my life. So this is what part-time looks like for me. On my busy schedule, I have a light and a busy schedule. My busy schedule is I teach 11 classes, of which 3 are now online. And only 2 of those, one is a regular class. It runs every week apart from when I take holiday. The other 2 are they only run in 6-week courses. So for 30 weeks of the year, I teach 11 classes. It does mean I'm teaching every day, but I only teach 11 classes altogether. I've got space in between. And I've structured it in a way that suits me and I know works with that niche. I teach 6 classes a week for 15 weeks of the year. So 30 weeks of the year, I teach 11 classes. This week, I'm on a light schedule. So I'm only teaching 6 classes a week this week. And that's on a Tuesday to a Thursday. So I taught 2 classes this morning. I have 2 face-to-face classes, regular classes every Thursday morning. The first one is more for beginners or those who've been with me a little bit and want a gentler pace. The second class is for those students who've been with me now for so long, all the way through the pandemic as well. And they've got so goddamn good that I've expanded that to do a level 2 class with them. So I finish on a Thursday at 12 o'clock, come home, and then that's it. I don't teach again until next Tuesday, when I'm on what I call my light schedule. Now that gives me a long weekend. If I wasn't coaching you right now, I could have planned a long weekend away that meant I've finished, I can go off somewhere and I don't have to come back until Monday night. I tell you what, it's bliss. And it still brings in that income. I take a minimum of 7 weeks holiday a year, and I run 3 or 4 day retreats a year. I plan those in now, so I know exactly when the retreats will be for the next year. I'm already letting my students know, because some of them start booking and registering. They don't have to pay early, but you know they'll say, you know, they want to know when the next one is, and they'll book in and reserve a place for the next one. And at the time when I'm booking the day retreats in, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to cover. I'll go back and look at some of the other things that I've been teaching in previous retreats, and I'm now up to about 25, 26 retreats, day retreats that I've run now, that usually bring anything between 18 and 35 students a time. Okay, so, and that's another way that just brings in a really nice kind of pocket of income in one go. There's a lot of work that goes into designing the days, but then you get that lovely boost in terms of income that comes in as well. And that all adds to the pot for the annual income. So that's what my part-time looks like. If you were to come with me on this journey, we would look at what your part-time looks like. And you might have a short-term and a longer-term vision, because if you're currently working full-time, there's going to be a limit to what you can do to start to build up to begin with. So it might take you slightly longer to start to transition. And, you know, you would want to think about the steps you'd need to take to do that. There will be some of you who might be able to start doing, you know, quite a number of classes straight away. So it depends on your circumstances. And that's why I believe the way I work with students and yoga teachers is different, because it literally takes you from where you are, not some cookie cutter. Where are you? Where do you want to be? What's possible? And then let's look at how we can help you to get there. Okay. The bottom line is, guys, I've built a business that works around my life. It's bliss, not the other way around. It works for my students and it works for me. So let me ask you some questions. Have you ever advertised your classes and got little or no interest? Siobhan, I know you're here and still live, so I know you'd be putting your hand up now and saying yes, because for those of you who weren't here on Monday, I didn't record the, I didn't send the recording of the coaching session that we did afterwards. For the moment, we'll keep that private until people come into, unless they come into the group, and then we'll have a community of our own. But I know that one of us already has advertised, had a flyer, and got no interest. And even on Monday, we were looking at that flyer, looking at what was on that flyer. And hopefully, Siobhan, I know that, thank you very much for getting back to me to say that actually that was very helpful, because I could see some clear reasons why you got little or no interest that I hope have resonated for you, so you would do things differently next time. But if that's ever happened to you, then I know I can help. If you've ever got disheartened because numbers of students fluctuate so much that you never know if you're going to cover costs. I can't tell you again how many yoga groups I'm in, and I watch and I look at the threads and the people, the teachers talking and bemoaning about the fact that they're really struggling because they think the students are struggling because of the cost of living. They're struggling to get students in after, normally there's been quite a few threads I've seen where people are saying September is usually a good time because the summer holidays, the kids have gone back, so people come back, but they haven't come back this year and they're wondering why. I bet you that if I actually had some time coaching and working with them and asking them some of the right questions, I could pinpoint some of the reasons why it's not working for them. But they don't know what they don't know. And so what they're doing is they're just continuing to do what they've always done and hope that things are going to stay the same. They won't. Yeah. So if this is you, I hope that what it's doing is flagging up that there are some skills, certain skills and business savvy that I know if you understood those and you knew those things, it would help you so that that didn't happen to you. Maybe you've heard about niching, but you don't really understand why it will help, or you do understand, you get it, why it can help, but you struggle to understand how to actually do it in a way that works. It's that nailing it that we talked about earlier. Maybe you've spent time posting on social media, but you've got very little return or interest from all that time. And it's really interesting, isn't it? You can go onto social media to put a post, and then half an hour later suddenly find you've gone on a rabbit warren of just watching other people's posts and scrolling. You've just wasted half an hour of your time. And has it brought you any new students? Probably not. Okay. And maybe you felt unsure and sometimes uncomfortable about how to price your offerings. If any of that resonates for you, I know I can help. And let me ask you the big question. Can you predictably generate the amount of income you want every month from your teaching? Like I can. Whether it's a couple of £100 extra a month or 1,000 or more, there's a set of habits and a basic business savvy that you're going to need in order to be able to do that. So I want you to think of it a little bit, and I use this analogy a lot when I'm training with teachers. I want you to think of this a bit like baking a cake. If you were going to bake a cake, particularly if it's a recipe that you've never done before, and imagine it's a posh cake, a bit like that one, I'd struggle with that, okay? Then you need to know the right ingredients. Now for that, in terms of building your yoga business, read steps. There are certain steps you need to take. We covered the 7 steps you need to take, and you need to make sure that a part of what you do on day 1. So if you don't know what those 7 steps are, go back and watch day 1. Those are the ingredients, okay? But can you just get all the ingredients together? So say you go out and you get all those ingredients, okay? Do you just start anywhere? No. You know, with most cakes, you have to cream the butter and the sugar or something together first, don't you? There's a process. There's an order in which you use or apply those ingredients. Because if you don't, you won't get the same result. In fact, you might be damned lucky to get a cake at all if you don't do it in the right order. So sometimes what I see other yoga teachers doing who do not have the business savvy is they're doing some of the right, they've got some of the right ingredients. You know, you've done it, you've done an advert, you've got a website up. Do you, you know, would those things be helpful? Absolutely. But are they quite right? Is it the best ingredient? Could you do that better? And have you got your website up or have you found the hole and just stuck a flyer up first when actually there's 6 steps you need to do before you do that? There's 6 other ingredients that you needed to have in place before you even started on advertising and getting your flyer up. And if you haven't done those, you're not going to get the same result. Okay? You need to have a willingness to learn and to tweak. If you want to make that posh cake, if you want to do something that's a little bit more cordon bleu and a bit posher, and I'm a terrible cook, I have to say, you're going to have to be prepared for the fact that the first time you try it, it may not turn out as well as you hoped, and you may need to practice it. You need a mindset that understands that it won't probably come out perfect first time, and be willing to learn and tweak. And that what you're going to do in terms of building this business that brings you in that predictable income is going to require patience and practice. Do you know what, guys? One of the things that I consistently say to my students is what we learn on the mat, we take off the mat. And if we are open, you know, there are lots of things that we can learn, particularly through balances, for example. You know, there's lots of things that we can learn about ourselves and about what we're doing by the reflection that takes place on the mat. But if you guys can do, if anybody here watching and listening can, I haven't even tried a handstand, I must admit. I can do headstands, I can do crow. I'm starting to master some of the arm balances, which for 71 I think isn't too bad and is an inspiration for my students. But you don't get to headstand, you don't get to crow first time. You need to be able to have the mindset that understands that building your business is going to require the same mentality. It's going to take time. So if you were willing to master some of the things that you've done in yoga, I want you to bring that same really helpful mindset to building your business and making this work. Because what most teachers do is they flip from trying one thing after another, sometimes based on what they hear seems to be the current magic way to grow your classes. So, you know, you're spending time on social media, you suddenly get distracted by something that you see, some guru online is telling you that you can make 6 figures online. Don't fall for it, guys, right? Please don't fall for it, especially if you're at this stage and you really haven't built a business. If you haven't built a business that works, that is predictable, face to face, you are going to struggle trying to take it online. Just take it from me. You know, it's a bit like those people you see going into the dragon's den and you see some of the dragons just saying, stop. Stop doing what you're doing. Please stop doing what you're doing and let's get some basics right first. Okay, so, and I see this so many times, and the problem with it, and the thing that saddens me, is that because they flip from one thing to another, well, I'll try a bit of this, or I'll try going online, or I'll try this course and this might help, or I'll, Facebook advertising is the latest craze, so I'll try doing some of that, but it doesn't work. They don't know why it doesn't work, and there will be reasons why it doesn't work, and then they get disheartened. Yeah, and it's this constant roller coaster emotionally, never mind any other way. Okay, it's wearing. If nothing else, it's wearing. They may well be doing some of the steps which do need to be done, but as we mentioned earlier, they're not doing them in the right order. And that matters. It's important. It sounds a simple thing, but it matters. They try something and it fails. And then they either give up because it hurts. Let's face it. If you feel as though something fails, it's really easy. I used to do it in the early days, building my first business. I'd shrink back into my shell and just think, oh God, it smarts. I don't want to do that again because it just feels painful. The rejection, the failure feels painful. Or you spend weeks before you pick yourself up and get back on the bike and try again. All those weeks are weeks that you've lost, that you could have been building your skills and mastering what you're trying to do. And if they do try again, they just repeat the same thing they did before. Do you know what the definition? You've probably heard the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If you're doing the same thing. So Siobhan, for you, coming back to what we were talking about on Monday, do not use that flyer. Do not use that same flyer again to attract. You would need to work on your flyer. You'd need to tweak it, yeah, before you could start to redo and put something out there again. Okay. So, and this is where I want you to start thinking about something else that I think is really important. I want to ask you, because this is something else to do with the mindset that I see so many yoga teachers fail with, fail to really deeply, truly understand. I want to ask you, how much have you invested in your yoga teacher training? So I'm not going to look at the chat right now, but just what would be really useful for me is if in the chat, could you just type in a rough figure of what you think you've already spent on yoga teacher training, including, so if one of the girls who came on Monday, she had done her intensive training in Goa. Now I'm imagining that wasn't just the cost of the teacher training, there were the flights as well to pay for with that. Maybe, she had to take time off. I don't know. But if ballpark figure, just type in the chat what you think you might have spent. Maybe you might have even invested in extra CPD. You've done, your 500 hour. I've done my 200 hour, and then I went and did my advanced teacher training in India. I had all the travel over to India. And I was teaching at the time, and I was paying for other teachers to come and cover teachers to come and cover my classes while I was doing my advanced teacher training in India. So there were a lot of costs involved in that. I bet most yoga teachers, qualified yoga teachers, will have spent at least 2,000 or more when they start adding everything up on their yoga teacher training. And let me ask you, have you even broke even on that investment? Now, you might have done, but have you? And that's where we need to start to think about what's the difference between an investment and a cost. So an investment is something that requires you put capital, so money into it, like you did for your YTT, or so you put money in, you put capital in the form of money or time or effort, or all three. Often it's all three, in the hope that you get a greater payoff in the future than what you originally put in. So if you were to say to me, have I broke even on what I've invested in my yoga training? More than. 10, 15, 20 times more than over the last decade that I've been teaching. Absolutely. And what I bring in and the profit in my business pays for more CPD, for more training, for me to grow and get better, to be able to better serve others. But that money comes from the business, not from my own salary. Yeah, there is a difference. And that's where you start to think like a business. A cost, on the other hand, is time, energy, or money you put into something, but there is no financial return. You may get an emotional and a personal growth return, though. So I get some students, some yoga teachers who say to me, well, you know, I did my yoga teacher training more for personal development than anything else. And so my question back to you would be, do you feel you got a return on your investment? Did it really help? And if your answer is a resounding yes, then you did get something back from that, but you didn't get the financial return that would normally come with the financial thinking around investment. So here's the thing. And we covered this on day one too. This is a mantra that I learned from one of my many mentors. Treat your yoga business like a business, and it will pay you like a business should do. That's what a business should do. It should pay you a salary so you can live. Treat your yoga business like a hobby, and it will cost you like a hobby. You want to take golf up, it's gonna cost you money for, you know, the fees, your clubs, the travel, whatever else you're gonna. Hobbies cost us. They might give us an emotional return, and maybe a physical health return back, but they don't give us a financial return. My question to you right now, and maybe that would be really interesting from those of you who are live now, just type in the chat, do you feel you currently have a hobby or a business? And you just write hobby, business. To which my next question is, if you have currently a hobby and you don't have a business, something that's paying you regularly and consistently, my next question to you is, do you want a business? Because if you do, you need to think and act like one. And this is where there might be a bit of an elephant in the room. And this is where the mindset piece might come in. Because it might make you feel uncomfortable to start thinking business head instead of yogic head. And sometimes they feel so different, don't they? Somehow, business and yoga don't always seem like good companions. There's kind of a bit of a disconnect there, particularly for those of you who are, I'm a secular yogi, okay? I'm very interested in the philosophy, but my whole approach, the way I work with my students is absolutely secular, okay? I do not have an issue. I do not have that same internal struggle with business and helping others that I see so often in the yoga community. Okay, sometimes it just feels a bit icky. Sometimes your personal beliefs about money and business clash with some of the actions that you think and you believe and you feel, and some of them, if that's true, you're going to need to take if you're going to build a business. So I find that's one of the reasons why so many of the yoga teachers I work with, when it comes to talking money, when it comes to pricing offers like courses that you're going to run, blocks that you're going to offer, memberships, how much do I charge for a retreat day if I'm going to take people away for a weekend? I see those questions all the time because people have all this internal struggle going on about, I don't charge too more because it's not yogic somehow. okay? Which leads to these next two points, that in some way, many yoga teachers I work with or see or hear will talk about feeling that yoga should be accessible to everybody. But what I'm hearing is, well, yes, that's a really nice idea, but do you mean accessible to everybody, even if that's at your expense? You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give if you don't look after your own self-care first. If you run out of money, how are you going to help others? You know that there's a disconnect going on here that I think a lot of us really need to start to look inside. For some of you who are listening to this, this may not be an issue at all, but I know only too well from experience there will be some people listening to this for whom they do have that internal struggle. They do feel that sense of discomfort. And that's one of the things that as a coach, I know I can help you to kind of work through and think about. Because you're going to need to do some inner work if you don't want to consciously or even unconsciously, because many of the beliefs that we hold about money, about business, we don't even realize we're holding those beliefs. But boy, if you've ever done, there may be some people who are listening to this who do have psychology backgrounds like me, who've maybe done NLP training, neuro-linguistic programming, for those of you who don't know, various different personal development stuff. You know, there's some inner work. There's a conflict between the inner work and what you're asking to do. It kind of, that you need to be able, and sometimes those inner beliefs, you don't even realize that those things are directly impacting your behavior and therefore your results. Okay, so the coaching can help you to uncover that, to deal with it. It's one of the things that I find comes up a lot when we're doing the coaching sessions, the hot seats, they come up a lot. Okay. I want you, if that is you, so if that's beginning to ring true a little bit for you, I want you, just one quick thing I will say about that to try and help you a little bit right now. I want you to just remind yourself that the more that you promote what you do successfully to get students in, the more you can help others. What help, you know, if you're coming from that place that is, I want to give, I want to help, I've got stuff I know that I can share that's really going to help these people. But if you can't get them to come in because your business skills don't work, you're not helping anybody. How is that helpful? How is that giving back? It's okay. In fact, it's a necessity unless you've got inherited wealth. And if you have, I'm very jealous. And you've chosen this to be a give back activity. But for most of us, we need to earn a living like any other caring profession. And lastly, people do not. And if you come on this journey with me, that will be one of the things that will come up in the training. People do not, I repeat, do not value what they get for free. In 99% of circumstances, they devalue the offer, they devalue you and the skills and the time and the energy that you've put in to try and help them. They treat you with disrespect. This is a key issue. So have this handle, start to think about if any of this is beginning to sort of, you know, you're kind of thinking, oh, crikey, yeah, I'm feeling this. This is an issue that you need to know could well be sabotaging how successful or otherwise you becoming a successful yoga teacher. So here's the hard truth. I'm giving away some really useful nuggets of information throughout the whole of this session and in session 1. There are people out of those 60 odd that have signed up that won't even look at it. And then they'll wonder why they're not being successful. There are some of you who will do nothing with some of these useful nuggets that I'm giving you right now, despite the fact that I know that if you did do something with it, it would positively impact the trajectory of your yoga teaching career and would mean you would be able to help more people in a very meaningful profession. So I want to ask you, are you interested and willing to embrace growing your business savvy? Because if you are, stay tuned. If you're not, this might be the point at which you leave. Okay. So what is this program all about? You're going to receive, coming back to the cake analogy again, you're going to get the right ingredients in the right order. You're going to learn that this is about personal growth. You know, one of the first, I used to be well, I still am, the sado who takes management and psychology and personal development books on holiday. I cannot remember the last time I read a novel. Seriously, cannot remember the last novel I read. It must have been 30 years ago. I have steeped myself in psychology, personal development, and coaching, developing coaching skills. And one of the things that one of the personal development gurus I followed way back in the early days, Jim Rohn, and who I have a quote on all of my newsletters with my students and so on. But one of the things that he said with regard to this was that when talking about making a lot of money, he talked about making millions, people who have ambitions to make millions. We're not talking about that here, but let's just say, you know, but the saying is still true. He said that it's not the making of the millions. It's who you become on the way to making the millions. What I want to say to you is, it's not the making of the 30K a year plus that you could be making working with this rewarding niche. It's who I know you're going to have to become in order to do that, because you will grow as a person, both internally, you know, think about the money mindset stuff that we've just been talking about and the things that you might have to feel as though you have to learn, become self-aware. You know, we started just like yoga does, just like the mat does. It teaches us mindfulness, self-awareness, because from that space, you will start to realize what might need to change in so many ways. You will grow, including a growing sense of confidence in your abilities. And that's one of the things that, interestingly, I know came up from the coaching part of the call on Monday. That, you know, one of the issues was a feeling of nervousness and a lack of confidence in your own ability to be able to help others, to be able to get it right and set it up. I can't tell you, since I started, I mean, my first business I started at 50. I'm 71 now. I've had 21 years of growth. And the stuff I've had to learn, master, overcome, the fears I've had to, you know, the times I've fallen off the bike. But when you think about warrior pose and the strength that warrior gives us and that need for resilience, isn't that what this is actually all about? Isn't that what we're trying to work with when we work with our students? This whole idea of helping them not just to build a physical strength, but an emotional and spiritual strength too, mental strength. Yeah. I can't underestimate the value of this. You will also receive that resilience, that mindset of being willing to learn, to tweak, to reach competence and then mastery. And you'll receive the support, the encouragement, and the accountability of a mentor and coach to keep you on track. Because here's the thing, Siobhan, you put the you put that flyer out there and it didn't work. And it's really easy to do that kind of, crouch in, don't want to do that, that hurt, don't know whether I want to try that again. And it's really easy to go into that place of, let's just stay safe, let's just not do that again. But the accountability of a mentor shows that they believe that you can do it. You just don't have the right skill set yet. That's the only thing that's missing. Yeah, not your ability. It's nothing to do with who you are as a person, but you can't do that on your own. Since I started in business for the last 20 years, I have invested thousands in business mentoring and other mentoring because I know it helps me to grow. Okay. And for that accountability, for that person who's going to say, did you do what you said you were going to do, Shona? No. Okay. So I've been tweaking, learning, and trying to master a way of supporting teachers for some time. This, total transparency, is the fifth, I was going to say fourth, it's the fifth iteration of this program that I've been trying, working with yoga teachers in different ways. It's the fifth iteration. And every time I've tried to work on it harder. I've tried to develop it a bit more. I've tried to understand what the teachers' needs are a little bit more. That's my way of walking the talk. I try to do exactly the same thing with my students. I want my students, remember when we said earlier in the session, I want my students, when they walk in, to look at me and think, whoa, if that's what yoga does for you, count me in. So I try to be an inspiration for my students, to show them what's possible at 71, so that instead of them walking into my classes saying, well, I've got lots of aches and pains, but you've got to expect that, haven't you, when you get older? No. Who said? Not on my watch. Okay. So this is about walking the talk. This is about, and this is where it is so much easier to marry the concepts of business skills with your yoga mentality, because I know that I am inspiring and helping those students, but I have to market to them to get them through the door in the first place. So here's how I believe that the Pathway to Profit coaching and mentoring program could help you if you choose to join me. You will start growing reliable income from your teaching. What's my goal for you? Apart from the goal of helping you to build a 2 to 4K business, okay, a monthly business, my other more immediate goal for you is to have you create and have ready your first offers for the new year. You are perfectly positioned to get everything in place so that you can launch and have students coming to you ready to signed up, ready to pay, already paid, or to pay you when you start back in the new year, ready to go. Student enquiries coming in, registrations already happening, tangible results. I don't believe in the wishy-washy, tangible results. Let's look at some really modest goals. Let's say you said to me, Shona, over the next 6 to 9 months, even if I could bring in another 500 quid a month, that would be wonderful. Well, my question to you would be, could you do just 2 evenings and 2 daytime classes? Could you manage that? Yeah? Could you teach 2 6-week absolute beginner courses? And if you come on the program with me, you will learn in more depth about how to develop an absolute beginner course, what to put in them, how to really make them ring, how to increase loyalty, how to get students back to more courses or to move on to other things. You'll learn a whole host of steps, because there's another cake, an absolute beginner's course. How do you put that together? How do you make that cake? You'd learn how to do that in this program, and how to do it specifically for midlife to later years and what's worked for me. But let's say you could teach 2 6-week absolute beginner courses. And let's say, just for the sake of argument, you got 10 students at each of those 2 classes. All right? And they're paying something between 45 to 55 pounds for that set of 6 classes. That's between £900 and £1,100 for that 6-week course alone. If you were to do that 5 times, so I run 3 absolute beginner courses. In my busy schedule, I run 3 absolute beginner courses. on a Monday night, a Tuesday night, and a Wednesday night at 6:15 for an hour. I do them for 30 weeks of the year, that's all. So this week, I'm not doing the absolute beginner courses. They know, my students know there's a break. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh, but if I have a big break, I mean, 5 times a year during the summer holidays, there are no absolute beginner courses. Do I get students who actually say to me, oh, it's going to be a long time till the next beginner course, Shona. Can't you do something in between? Well, yes, you can come to my regular courses, but no, I'm not running any more absolute beginner courses. Because this is my time. This is my business. This is the way I want to run it. And you might think, oh, if I leave it that long, people won't come back. Yes, they will. If you've positioned yourself properly, if you've made yourself a damn good teacher with this niche, they'll come back. You would be, I questioned. When I first started, I thought, if there's a 4-week gap, will they just not come back? I wasn't sure, so I tested it. They do. They do. Yeah. So if you run this 5 times a year, like I do, that's just 2 classes a week instead of 3. That's 4,500 to 5,500 per annum. This is total revenue. This is not gross or net profit. And if you don't know the difference between gross or net profit, that's where we need the business head. So you will learn that during the course, and you need to be savvy about that. Okay. But you've got 4 to 5, up to £5,500 over a year, just teaching 5 2-week, 5 times some 2-week absolute beginner courses, 6-week absolute beginner courses coming in, as long as you know how to attract them. But you've got to learn how to put that cake together first. If you chose to add in just 2 more regular classes at which you sign up 10 students to each, and bearing in mind most of my regular classes have anything between 16 and 25, 26 regular students, all paying memberships. Yeah. But let's say you have 2 regular classes at which you sign up just 10 students. So I'm trying to keep it realistic here. I'm trying not to hype. Okay. And you bring in 10 students at each, and you offer them maybe a block. You might choose to, we'll look at, as part of the program, we'll look at the different ways that you can try and keep people and keep them loyal. I use subscriptions, monthly subscriptions, and blocks is one of the ways that I do it. So say you have, and my blocks are 5 or 10 class passes with a little bit of leeway. But that averages, it means an average student is worth to me somewhere between £28 and £32 a month. Yeah. I have over 100 students. You do the math. Yeah. Now that's doing more classes, but if you signed up just 20 students, averaging £28 to £32 a month, that's another £560 to £640 per month, which means if you were to do those classes, if you just did the absolute beginners class, you're going to bring in another £5,500 to your income over a year. If you add in a couple of regular classes, you could bring in between £1,200 and £1,500 a month minus your costs. Just let that sink in. These are modest goals, guys, but they don't just happen by sticking a flyer up that says, come to yin yoga. You have to make the cake first. Yeah. There is what I call a sweet spot that makes the finances easier, which is the number of classes that you can make available. So let me tell you, I now run slightly more. When I first, it's only since the pandemic has this changed. So in the last 2 years, my busy schedule is 11 classes a week. My light schedule is 6. Pre-pandemic, my busy schedule was 9 classes a week, and my light schedule was 5 classes a week. So it was less, and I was still bringing in, well, I was bringing in actually, to be perfectly honest, sometimes I was bringing in over 40 on there, okay? So, but that's again, one of the things that you will learn if you come on this journey with me is that the number of classes you can make available is limited by your own capacity, your own business strategy, which you will have worked on and decided, which is really important. That's why I come back to when I said at the beginning that one of the first things we'll do is let's look at the strategy. Let's look at what's realistically possible for you, okay? But that can come with time and experience. So if you are currently working, if you are currently maybe part-time or thinking of transitioning part-time, maybe you've put aside some money to allow you to be able to just jump ship and still have enough money to live on for 6 months while you build the business up, in which case you can do it a lot quicker. People's circumstances are going to be different, and that's why this is not a cookie cutter program. I am not a cookie cutter coach, right? I coach people from where they are to where they want to be, okay? So here's my proposal for supporting you to make that journey and that transition. Pathway to Profit is a 12-week coaching and mentoring program shaped by your needs. It's a beta test program because this is the 5th iteration, and it's the first time I've run the 5th iteration. So I need some feedback from students who are committed, who are willing to be part of the process, who are willing to give me feedback, and who are willing to join in with their heart and soul and see if they can make it work. It can be small, but you need to be able to be willing to come as part of it. Otherwise, it really isn't worth it. Okay, it's going to be coaching that will help you to identify your first steps and focus based on what you already have in place or not, as the case may be. It will include a series of trainings, but they will be clear, bite-sized, actionable. Some will be live, some will be pre-recorded. There will be 12 weeks in all. So it starts next week, and it will run the basic 12 weeks, but I'm going to allow people to enroll until I get the number of students. I want a minimum of 20 students on this program to really test it properly so that I can really see what works and what doesn't work. But whenever you join, you'll get 12 weeks of coaching. If you started next week, that will literally take you into the new year, so that pre-new year, you'd have everything ready to launch new year, and then you'd get the training after the new year that would help you to start to build on what you've got and understand how to create loyalty. But it doesn't matter when you join the program. You can join at any point and then come in as part of the coaching and still work through the sessions. Okay. It is flexible, I hope, and realistic based on your available time. So what will you cover in those 12 weeks? Week 1 will be all about setting your goals. You'll get an overview of the roadmap and the training for the next few weeks. We'll work on your overall strategy and goals. So what income do you want? What student numbers would you like? What locations are you going to target? Who are you going to target? You're going to get the my 13-point checklist for filling your classes. That will help you as part of a self-assessment, so we can see where you're at, where the gaps are, and what things you know you need to focus on. And then the accountability and the coaching will help you to stay focused on that. So you don't go down any rabbit warren of anything else. You stay focused on what you need to do to get your business up and running. There will be a reality check for some of you. There will be mindset challenges and key tips moving forward, and you'll have your first hot seat opportunity. What are the hot seats? There will be 2 opportunities each week where you can come in and I will be there live. You can bring a hot seat question. You can be coached live on the call. It will be recorded if you can't make it. If you can't make the live calls, you can send in a question, and I will either devise if I haven't got a training already useful for that, I will devise a training that is useful, or I'll answer it on the call and put that up as part of the training, record it and put it up as part of the recording. So if you ever have questions as you're going through stuff, you know you've got someone that you can touch base with. What's my goal by the end of week 1? Your mission is to be clear about when you will and you can teach. A rough outline of your income goals and how many students you're going to need to hit those goals. You're going to start researching the demographics in your area if you haven't done already. You'll have an initial plan for and a research of venue locations. I'll be encouraging you to start pulling together a list of contacts for venues if you don't already have those. You might have those in place already, but if you don't, that might be one of the things that you might have to start working towards. And then you'll start reaching out to those contacts and looking at where you might be able to set up your teaching. Week 2 will cover a masterclass in writing good copy, an initial overview. We'll come back to writing copy many times throughout the program because it's something that you need to develop as a skill. But the one thing you definitely get with this, where I know some of my previous iterations didn't help so much, is my copy is selling to my niche. And I can help people selling to another niche, but they have to start to think it through a bit more carefully. If you're working with my niche, I can give you some pre-scripts to kind of work from. I encourage you not to just copy them per se. And we'll come back to that because this is about developing your own authentic voice and kind of spin to how I teach, because you're not me, and nor would you want to be, and nor would your students want you to be. But, what I can give you is a template that you can then work with and tweak accordingly. Makes it much easier, okay? So you'll get a basic guide to great copywriting that includes really understanding what we call the avatar. Who are these people? What are they like? What are their key drivers and desires? What's their availability? Where are their locations? Where are you likely to find these people? So by the end of week 2, your mission would to be have a clear outline of the problems, the solutions, and to be starting to think already about what to put on your flyers instead of come to yin yoga, what to put on your website. Maybe to start looking at a website that you maybe already have in place and start thinking, where do I need to tweak this in order to speak to this niche? You'll get a strapline and favorite mantras and quotes sorted, all from me. Yeah, or I'll share with you mine, and then you'll have an opportunity to start thinking about how you might there'll be some I'll say, if you want to take mine, feel free. Maybe you can think of some others. You'll review your current visibility, your current website, social media, etc., and update that to reflect your new focus. And you'll start considering where your own individual skill set might be able to support this niche. Weeks 3 and 4, we'll cover creating your enticing offers. So 2 weeks of really getting to grips with, okay, so I know who I'm targeting. I know where I'm going to start running my classes. See how we're starting to build the cake here. I've got those ingredients in place. Now I'm going to start pulling together an offer that I can actually put out to those people. So we're going to look at what are the key considerations you need to have in place when you're designing an offer. Should you do a course rather than a class? We'll look at that. Why you sell first and do the full design later. So if you're thinking about, everything, when I advertise my workshops or retreats, and when I first started trying to promote some other, my absolute beginner courses, I didn't have exactly in mind what I was going to teach over the 6 weeks. I hadn't got it all planned out, because that's a waste of time if you can't attract enough people to you. You need to get them in first. And then once you get them in, then you kind of think, oh, right, I better start doing something. I better get off my butt and actually, create and design this offer now. There's nothing better as a motivator than having a pile of students signed up, ready to work with you, and you're thinking, oh my God, I need to be ready now. Great for getting yourself into gear. Okay. Workshops or retreats or not, should you be doing them? We'll cover that. And knowing when you're ready for these, how to price your offer. And should you offer free trials, that will be in the training. So by the end of week 4, that means 1 month in, your mission will be to have your offers designed, and we'll focus on the absolute beginner courses, but you'll have a bit of flex here, and having clarity about the benefits to the students of these offers. And you're almost ready for launch. So this is a bit like getting the cake almost ready to put in the oven, carrying on that metaphor. Weeks 5 and 6, you're going to start planning a successful launch. So we're going to look at what are the 5 ingredients to a successful launch. You'll get swipe files from me, tips for copy, editorial, help with Facebook ads. You'll get time to finalize your hall, your venues, agreeing key terms with the contacts. You'll have dates in your diary ready. So things are starting to firm up. That cake is just about ready to put in the oven here, okay? And for this cohort, it means that you're all ready to launch your ads for the first week in December. So that if you start advertising and you're ready with your adverts and you know exactly what your launch plan and strategy is going to be, you can start drawing people in ready for January. Do I have my strategy and my plan and my adverts already sorted to bring in the January? Yeah, done already. Because I go away in December. That's when I take my 6-7 week break. I go to the sunshine for 6 weeks in December. I'm not around over Christmas. That needs sorting so that when I come, but I know I'm coming back in January to full classes because the plans, the adverts that I've got planned are all done already. Yeah, this is the business head. By the end of week 6, your mission would be your marketing strategy is planned. Where are you going to advertise? Some basic ads already designed. And you'll start to work on a simple website if you haven't got one already, or start making the real changes you need to the existing website, together with the information about your new offers and getting yourself on Google My Business if you haven't already. So by the end of week 6, your marketing strategy is planned. You know where you're going to advertise. You've got some basic ads designed. You're starting to work on your website. You've got the hooks and the benefits that you're going to focus on to catch your target's attention. Week 7 and 8 is you preparing to be professional. So again, we're still not quite getting the cake in the oven here. All right. This is you. Well, actually, no, you can. You can start launching your ads and everything there, because if you're not bringing people in until January, you've got some time to get the other stuff, the undercurrent stuff, the basic business stuff in place. So we're going to look then at getting your tech sorted. So all of a sudden, you've got, you come to me, hopefully, and say, crikey, I've got 30 students signed up for these 2 absolute beginner courses, but I haven't got it. How am I going to manage them? How am I going to email them? Because I haven't got a CRM. We're going to start. Don't panic. We're going to look at that then. You might have your CRM system, which is a customer relationship management, if you're not sure what that means. You might have something like MailChimp. If you haven't constant contact, all sorts of different, but if you haven't got your booking and payment system set up, if you haven't got your tech set up, we'll look at that then. And that's the right time when you've already got everything else in place. That's the right time to add that ingredient. You'll have your forms ready for your classes. What kind of forms will you need? You'll need things like registration forms, waivers, additional tips for having ready for students. I'll share with you some of the things that I give to students when they first enroll. So it makes it feel like they come into something that's really professional when they arrive, including a nice touch for those on your absolute beginner course that I will share with you. Some of the things that I do that just make it that little bit special, that make it when they walk in, they think, oh, this is good. Wasn't expecting this, okay? And how to prepare for and deal with inquiries and make students feel welcome before they even meet you. So by the end of week 8, so 2 months in to this three-month program, you've got a lot under your belt. Your mission, any tech you will need prepared, all admin and back office stuff sorted and ready. And then there will be a 2-week break over Christmas, because that literally takes us to Christmas for anybody who joins up in the first tranche. Your mission, to take time out and recharge, and yes, you should, to catch up if you need to. And then after Christmas, weeks 9 and 10, this is all about making a great first impression and building loyalty. You've got them through the door. They're all ready. You've got the offers. You know exactly what you're going to teach them. Now you want to wow them. Now you want to make them see that you are the teacher they want to come back to. So we're going to look at 5 ways that you can build loyalty going forward. What can you start to add that will keep your students coming back? We'll look at creating feedback forms, why I do it, why you should, and how you can learn from them. We'll look at things like connecting with heart and authenticity. So now we're coming more to the teaching skills. Why is there no point giving you the teaching skills week 1? Because if you've got no students to teach, what's the point? You want to get you want to get them in front of you first. But then you can start thinking about, okay, how? What do I need to do to improve the way I teach and work with these people? So by the end of week 10, your mission, to start honing your authentic voice, upskilling on adaptations for this niche, and reflecting on ideas for how you can take the current offers you have forward, if you wish. Weeks 11 and 12, so the last 2 weeks, is all about broadening your expertise. So what do we look at then? We'll look at a reminder of why we don't do this first. Again, if we did this, broadening your expertise, getting better. So, have I done lots of additional study, research, training to help me to better work with the niche I'm currently working with? My current major thing that I'm doing is doing a lot of study in the mindfulness meditation. I've taken extra, you might have heard of Joe Dispenza. I'll talk about that in the course. If you've never heard of him, never read any of his stuff, I'll share some of the things I've learned. But he's a big guy, a well-known guy in the field of meditation, a certain type of meditation that's quite useful. I'm currently working with the Sam Harris Waking Up app. If you've never heard of Sam Harris, never worked with him, wonderful stuff on mindfulness, lots of stuff to learn. So, but was there any point in me going deeper? I've taken a course on healthy back and core so that I understand more about the muscles in the core, so that I could run a 6-week beginner course for people with healthy back that focuses just on healthy back and core. So that, are there ways you can expand? Yes. But why would you not do that at the beginning? Because that's like trying to ice your cake when you haven't even put it in the oven yet. It's not, it's the wrong time, okay? We'll look at tailoring asanas for maturer bodies, and we will look strongly at the dangers of assuming. Because people walk in and they look at how old I am and they think, and people assume. I was listening to a Radio 4 chat the other day, Inside Health, it's on at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, and it's when I'm coming back from teaching on a Tuesday night. So I frequently end up hearing it as I'm driving home. And this week they were talking about how to get older people, the importance of exercise for older people, and how to actually, encourage them to do it. But you know what I found really, there was lots of interesting stuff on there that I made copious notes and re-listened to and whatnot. And it's stuff that will be incorporated into newsletters and other training that I do with my students and with you guys. But one of the interesting things that really struck me was the assumption, because they talked about, one of the interviewer was doing a bit of research with a guy who was worked at a university, was looking at what we can expect to happen when we age. So they put weights on him, they put a whole straitjacket on him and everything. But the interesting thing was, they said, this is what you can expect when you're in your 70s. And I'm sitting listening to this thinking, I'm 71. I don't look a bit like that. Because we can assume. And if you're going to be teaching midlife and later years, you're going to have a range. But you're also going to have some students coming into you. And this is one of the things where my coaching and my psychology background comes in really useful. And I can help to share some of these ideas and thinking with you that I'd highly encourage you to at least try on for size, which is it is really easy to assume that the people who are going to come to you are already struggling. They might be, but they're, can you challenge them? Yes. Is it possible to get students to do things that when they first came in, they can't do 12 months, 48 months down the line? Absolutely. I have seen my students blossom. That's why I've changed my offer, so now I have 2 face-to-face level 2 classes because so many of my students, and I feel like a proud mother hen, because I'm sitting there watching them, and that, sometimes I'll set them off on a sequence that I've taught them and they learn it, and they have to use their brain to think about it and to remember it, and then I let them fly on their own and they can do the whole thing on their own, and you to see them just going through that sequence on their own. I feel like a proud mother hen, because they know and I know that if you took them back, so in some cases even 6 months, they couldn't do what they're doing now. So don't assume, I think there are dangers to assuming what happens as we age is an absolute given. It isn't. And that's one of the things with the messages that I would like the teachers that come from my coaching arena, that's what I would like them to start to share out with the world. That the message I'm giving is, do we have to accept that growing old means growing infirm? No, damn well not. So we'll look at what I've created as a system that I've created, and then I teach my students that I call the 4 S's. You'll learn all about that in weeks 11 and 12. You'll learn some sequencing ideas that I've found that have worked and how I've developed students going forward. So you can really start to build and work with students. That's where you get the most satisfaction. You'll understand contraindications and when to refer to a specialist, really important, because I have students who have cancer, I have students who have MS, I have students who, have real problems with mobility, shoulder issues, sciatica, all sorts of things. That's where broadening your expertise, your level of skills, if you don't know all that stuff already, don't panic. You know enough as a qualified yoga teacher to at least get you started. And if that's one of the issues that comes up as we work through and you start to bring in students, you can always come to a hot seat and I can coach you through how to work through that, okay? So you get support if it's an area that you kind of, I'm not sure about, okay? Some of you might have even more training than I do in this and be perfectly confident with it. So it's not necessarily a need for you. So by the end of week 12, by the end of this 3-month experience, your mission to be what we call sharpening your saw. If you've ever read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, his 7th habit was sharpening the saw. And what he means by that is preparing yourself ready for growth. Yeah. So in summary, this program, should you choose to join it, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to consider your approach to this niche, avoiding a cookie cutter, but keeping authentic. So you'll take a lot of what you take from me, but then I'm going to encourage you to make it your own. Just the same that I encourage my students. They learn a sequence with me. They learn how to put things together. We try and experiment and challenge all sorts of things, but they know that when I let them, as I call, fly on their own, this is about them thinking about, where do I want to go in this sequence? How do I want to feel my body into this sequence? You'll learn how to hone your initial messages for your marketing and choose your first avenues for your media to focus on and test. You'll create and have ready your first offers for the new year, priced, clear, and ready to go. And you'll explore how your own unique experience can enhance and broaden your students' experience with you, because you'll have skills I don't. but that you could still bring to the table that would really benefit the students that you've got in your audience. This program is designed to help you to consider why offering a free trial session may not be the best approach, how to structure your offers, and what key elements it's useful to bear in mind. It'll help you to have some clear policies in place to avoid being taken advantage of, but it'll help to guide you about why flexibility is a word that I find is a key word within my business strategy, of how to incorporate this into your pricing structure and the way of working with my students as I move forward. You'll have a strategic step-by-step plan that you can follow. You'll be absolutely clear which pillars of marketing to work with and test first, and you'll understand how to measure the effectiveness of your marketing. You'll be able to write copy that sells, create your first specific marketing ads, use Facebook and social media for maximum impact and minimum drain on your time. You'll learn how to measure the results of your advertising and understand why that's so important to the health of your business. You'll have all systems that you need in place, your payment processing methods ready, a clear plan on how to make the best first impression, and you'll have a clearer idea of how to enhance loyalty, when might be the right time to incorporate deeper work such as student workshops or retreats, how to go about creating a strategy for additional deeper work, ensuring it fits with your business model and life aspirations. You'll think about whether to do one-to-one work or not, and if so, how to go about it. And you'll think about whether you might want to teach online or start to scale up to teaching something online, and if so, how. But you'll come to that from a strong, confident base. You're not left to fend for yourself over the next 12 weeks. Each week, apart from weeks 9 and 10, you will have a choice of two, which are the 2 break weeks. You'll have a choice of live coaching calls where you can book a hot seat for support with specific issues. You can send in specific questions, and if there's nothing in the existing vault, I will answer it on a coach call or produce a training to cover it if I think it's going to be useful. My mission, let me remind you, is to help you as a yoga teacher regularly and sustainably generate between £2,000 and £4,000 a month teaching part-time to a niche that you find rewarding emotionally and financially. I'm looking for around 20 committed teachers to come on this beta test with me, this 5th iteration, to beta test this program. And as a beta tester, you will have access to this program at what will be a significant discount, because each time I've done an iteration, I've got better results. It's proven to be better. I've learned a lot, and it will go up. The cost will go up. You'll have the opportunity to continue after the 12 weeks with the community for the lifetime access to the learning that you've had, but with an additional access to coaching calls and any new content and the accountability and support for a significant discount. It will never be offered at the same that I will offer to those first 20 students ever again. How would it feel if you could see your community growing, your bank balance improving, and your confidence rising, knowing that you can make this work? The investment, as a beta tester, you've 2 choices: a single payment of £475 or 3 monthly payments of £175. I am not pushing anyone into thinking they have to sign up immediately. But let me remind you, there is a difference between an investment and a cost. An investment means that you put time, money, and energy, and I'm going to demand all 3, right? But in the hope of a greater payoff in the future than what was originally put in. I want this to be an investment. I don't want it to be a cost. Remember those really modest goals we talked about earlier? £500 a month? Running 2 absolute beginner courses, you could have made that back. If you could successfully even just launch 2 absolute beginner courses and run them 5 times a year, you've made that money back. 10 times that money back. Yeah. Add in just 2 regular classes, you're well on your way to having made that money back. So you invest around 500, but you could make that back in 1 month. And then you could go on making that every month. I'd say that's value for money. I do not apologize, feel guilty, have no conflict between what I'm offering and how I know the value of what I offer can help someone. So, could doing your advanced yoga teacher training at a cost of probably $1,000 or more teach you the same skills? Could going on another course, like a yin course, a pregnancy yoga course, a yoga therapy course, could those teach you to do what I'm offering? Could going on that retreat weekend or longer that you might pay however many hundreds for offer you that? And what's the bare minimum that you would expect to pay for a one-to-one session for yoga or a massage? Or what's the bare minimum that you, if you were going to take on a one-to-one student, what's the bare minimum you would ask them for each week? Probably about 40 quid a session, 120 quid a month. Yeah. What will the cost be if you simply continue to do what you're already doing? So I want you to ponder that for a moment. If nothing changes, if you don't learn these skills, if you keep doing what you've kept doing for however long you've been doing it and not getting the results, where will you be 12 weeks from now, 6 months from now, this time next year? So there are limited spaces for just 20 teachers in this beta program. If you want to be one of them, then you need to let me know. I'm open to questions, and I've forgotten to put the other slide is that there should have been another slide there. I don't know where that's gone. Maybe I put it on at the end. Yeah, no, I didn't. Okay. But the enrollment, I will be sending the link out to the slides for this. I will be sending the recording for this, and I will be sending the link for you to be able to sign up tomorrow. The first 5 who sign up for me will also get 1 free 30-minute personal one-to-one coaching calls with me to be scheduled in sometime over the next couple of weeks at my convenience and your convenience. So the first 5 will get that additional benefit where you'll get a proper one-to-one, okay? But now I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to bring it back. Okay. And open it up to say, I am willing to stay for the next 15, 30 minutes to answer questions about the program. If you want to just ask or say about, well, this is where I am, Shona. Do you think it would help me? Anything that's cropped up about anything that I've covered, shoot. All you need to do is, in fact, I'll put if I go ask all to unmute, so then you can unmute yourselves. You should be able to unmute if you want to ask me a question.
No, it's a very good presentation. Thank you very much, Shona.
You're very welcome. And I'm just looking, I've now got access to the chat. And I'm seeing, I currently have a hobby.
Very much so.
Yeah. And Teresa, I can see you said a herd of elephants. Okay, the elephants in the room. Yeah. Let me just see what else I can see. I currently have a hobby. I'd like to do 500 hours. Okay, so, I'd like to do flights on. I'm like, oh, wow, I'd like to do 500 hours in Goa. Yeah, that's going to cost you, and my question is, if you don't know these skills, that's like putting the icing on the cake before you've made the cake.
I
Before
totally
you
agree.
put it in the oven.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And the other things that will come up for you are things like, sometimes it's a confidence thing because you think if I do the 500 hours, I'll be more confident. No, you won't. You'll
No.
still have the same jitters. And the bottom line is what you have already got.
Yeah.
It's more than the students who are going to walk in that door have got.
Yeah.
You are already one step. All you ever need. I've been a teacher for 50 years, right? If there's one thing I've learned, it's all I need to be is one step ahead of my students. One step ahead. In fact, sometimes there's a benefit to being one step ahead. Because if I was a professor trying to teach an 11-year-old, what I said or tried to teach would be way over their heads. And I'd have forgotten what it was like to be an 11-year-old. I wouldn't be pitching it right at all. So in actual fact, the fact that I'm just one step ahead of my students is sometimes a real benefit. All you ever have to do is be one step ahead and to care. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do not need a 500 hours in Goa till you not if you're doing the 500 hours as a hobby, go ahead. Go ahead. But just know that you're making a conscious choice.
I haven't booked it or anything. It's just something in my mind.
Yeah. But I'm not even just addressing you. This is addressing anybody who's listening to this. Yeah. So if you're doing it for you, it's personal growth. You don't want anything back out of it, and you don't expect, or you wouldn't be disappointed if you got nothing back out of it. Go ahead. But if you want to use, you see, the other piece for me about that too is there's almost something that's a shame there, because you'll be learning such valuable stuff that can help.
Sorry, I lost you there. My phone.
Did it? Okay. You could be, the other sad piece about that, Siobhan, is that you could be helping so many people with what you already have. There could be people literally right now. One of my mentors used this expression with me very early on, one of my very first mentors. And she said, there are people within a 10-mile radius of you right now that need what you have to offer. But unless you know how to find them, unless you know how to attract them and give them a reason to come to work with you, you will never be able to help them. So the positioning, the understanding of the business, and that's where I come back to that herd of elephants, the elephant in the room, the sense that business is it's not a nice word. I don't want to be a business person. Business people are icky and they're horrible and they carry briefcases and they talk money and you gotta let that go, right? You gotta let that go. There you go. Don't walk into your classes with that, Rob. Whatever you do, don't walk into it.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to put you off. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. It takes a lot to put me off on my stride. Although sometimes I do end up on my students laugh at me because, I'll start going off on a tangent and talking about something, and then I forget what the sequence was. And some of my level 2 students, in fact, even my more regular beginners and gentle pace students, correct me. I've taught them a sequence and then I forget, and they correct me what the sequence is. Which is the nice thing about that is, and I always throw it back to them and say, see, you did know how to do it. You thought you couldn't do it on your own, but you do, because now you're correcting me. So yeah, uh, business and having a heart-centered, caring business can still go hand in hand. It's how you do it. It's how you position it, how you put it to people to make them feel, and that what you offer, they genuinely feel that they are getting value for whatever. You know, I remember when my set of 10 are 75 quid for seven sessions. And I, not very often, but I've had a couple of, I don't get it at all now these days, but I did in the beginning. I got a couple of students who would say, oh, that's a lot of money up front. You know, and it's really easy to let that comment smart you. It's really easy to let you know, to find yourself questioning, oh, to start the shrinking in again, and to feeling as though, oh my goodness, I'm asking too much, this is not fair or whatever. I stand proud and know that what I offer my students, when I went in, when I you know, is fair and is valuable to them. When I went online in the pandemic, you know, my students requested that I do, so I did. I took time, effort, energy, creating offers, looking at what to put together that I thought would serve them best. I created new things I've never done before to work online with them that I thought might help, particularly because it was the pandemic. And one of the things I really wanted to help to encourage them was to build a sense of resilience and to see how yoga could help them do that. I spent a lot of time, a lot of my skill, my energy, my 50 years of learning, all piled into that. And then I costed it and I sent it out, and I got an email from somebody who was a regular student, and it cut me to the quick to begin with. And I wasn't sure whether to respond, just with comments like, I think that's a bit expensive considering that you don't have whole costs to pay for anymore, and I could do yoga online for nothing. And it would have been really easy for me to have taken that to heart and felt so hurt that I pulled back or tried to reduce the cost. But you know what? I knew that what I was offering was fair. And so the message he got back was a very well thought out email back, but that pointed out to him that, you know, all the points that I was offering that he would not be able to get, just picking up random videos online for free. And that, but if that was what he wanted to do, I fully understood. Actually working it out for him, faced that what it was costing him to have what he was going to get for the offer I was offering. And it literally worked out that where he and his wife, because there was two of them, they would have been paying £52 a month to me to come as a couple to my regular yoga classes pre-pandemic. They were going from that online to both of them, because they could both use the same, you know, I wasn't charging them twice. They could go from £52 to 26, yeah. And yet that wasn't good value.
Mm-hmm.
And when I costed it, I said, do you realize that that's the equivalent of less than £2 per person per session?
Mm-hmm.
If you think that that what I offer is not good value for that, then I'm sorry. Maybe you might like to go on, you know, and do the freebies. But I've worked too hard for this. And what I offer and what I'm pulling together is something very specific, dealing with the pandemic. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, you know, that was not in the, but that's, you know, reading between the lines, he knew what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, even 4 weeks later, they joined, and they're still with me.
Yeah, they came back.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there has to be something which is about understanding that what you offer, and that's why I know that what I'm offering, particularly as beta, this program will go up to just under £1,000 once it's no longer a beta program. And once I get Kanya at bringing new students in, and the marketing and so on, because I know that what I can do is help people to do what I promised them I can do. Yeah. And I know it's worth it. I know one of my mentors used to say, if you can show that the value of what you offer is worth 10 times what you're charging.
Well, I think it is.
Yeah. And it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a really good offer. Really good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it with you. I'm going to send the link tomorrow. I'm going to give you time. The link will be there to if you're one of the first 5 that signs up, you will get the one-to-ones. If you sign up, I'll give you immediate access to there's an online platform that has all the information that will get you started straight away. So there's little bits in there to get you going even before we start on Monday. So that you won't feel as though there's a blank hole and nothing until Monday. There'll be a little bit of something you can start.
If you sign up for the course, is it a certain time of the day? Do you come on?
No, the live coaching calls will be. So the way the way it will be structured is I've got a platform again, and this is all part of the costs for me. And that's another reason why there's costs involved for this. A lot of costs involved with going online. So I have a very specific platform where I have already got lots of trainings that I've already pre-recorded that teach they're never the recordings that are already in there, they're never more than 10-15 minutes. So there's never anything as long as this. So you get a short bite-sized lesson that's 10-15 minutes on a particular thing that I'm trying to teach you, and then you get an action that comes out of that you have to go away and implement. And then whatever stage you're at, so there'll be a mix of some that are already pre-recorded, so you don't have to wait. You can watch them anytime you like. Yeah, they're there for you to watch, to learn, and to start to implement. But then twice a week, you will have access, and you'll learn when the coaching calls will be. And I'm still haven't quite fathomed out whether I'll include just out of interest. Would it be, I am thinking Mondays and Friday afternoons, because that works for me regardless of my schedule. But if that show of hand, would that work for you, or would a weekend be better? Would having a weekend, if I put a weekend in, again, because I'm trying to build my business around my life. Yeah. Do I want to keep coaching regularly or every weekend? Not necessarily. So there might be times when it changes, but I'll change the time on a Monday and a Friday. So that would mean you'd have access to 2 coaching calls. They will be what I call coaching calls. And that's where you can register for a hot seat. So if you're coming up against something that you're struggling with, you can, if you can't attend the call, but you really would like some urgent feedback, you can email me a question and I will bring it up and talk about it on the live call, or I'll coach you one-to-one on the call. So like Siobhan, like I did when you showed me your flyer the other day. And you showed me your flyer and you were telling me about why it didn't work, about the fact that it didn't work and it didn't bring people in. You could bring that issue to me and I could coach you there and then. You'd have a 15-minute coaching where I can sort of have a look and try and talk out and work through what might be the sticking point, what might you need to do to help you to get unstuck to move on to the next point. So
I've already made changes to it.
Good. And
whether the changes will work or not, but thank you so much for your time. It's food for thought. I'll go away and process everything that you spoke about.
And this is the piece where, it's lovely to hear you say that you've already, what happened on Monday made you go away and think and start to tweak.
Yeah, totally.
That's exactly what this program is designed to do. To support you as you go.
Yeah.
So that's the start of your cake. Whatever you tweak, you might, you put it out there, you give it another test, you see whether you get a better response. You might need to tweak it again, but I work with you as you do it so that hopefully you stay confident. You don't end up going, oh, don't want to do this because it hurts too much. Yeah. And you just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions, things you want to share?
Yeah, the thing I have to process would be, because I've got a foot in the UK and a foot in Portugal,
Yeah.
it would be where I would want to do it.
Yeah.
Because that'll be the deciding factor for me.
Well, week 1 and 2 is you remember when I said week 1 and 2 is all about understanding, is getting your strategy, getting you to start to take the yoga hat off for a minute, put your business hat on. And one of the first questions I'm going to be getting you to think about is, where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to be in the next 12 months?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make this work, you need to make a decision about, and the interesting thing, do you know what the interesting thing, because I'm kind of, not quite yet, but I have a longer term strategy. I'm 71 now. At 75, I have already made the decision that the way my life is going to look is I am going to spend 3 months of the year in Fuerteventura. I spend 7 weeks of the year out there at the moment. All right. But I'm going to spend 3 months of the year in Fuerteventura.
Good for you. You've got the right attitude to life.
Yeah. But isn't that a good inspiration for our students?
Absolutely.
Okay. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it comes
What inspires me is the fact
you practice what you preach.
Yeah, absolutely.
What inspires me is the fact that you started doing this at 62.
Yeah.
So that gives me encouragement, because I thought it was a bit.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So at 75, I want to be spending 3 months of the year I want to literally leave the country at the beginning of November or the beginning of December and not come back until March.
Yeah.
I am already working on how I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And keep a business running while I'm working. So this business is my way of starting to build a strategy.
Okay.
So I've got coaching that I'm doing while I'm in Fuerteventura.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to build a retreat. I know a retreat center out there that I've started linking with to start to help to run my retreats, full week retreats that are specifically for midlife to later years. I will be running those while I'm out in Fuerteventura. And then I will come back to the UK and work with my students. Do I worry that they won't wait for me? No. I know that they'll come back, and I'll get cover in for part of that time. I'll look at working on building cover up for the few weeks that I'm not going to be in the country. So this is what I mean about thinking strategically, thinking with the business head. So week 1 and 2 is going to help you to do that, Teresa. It's going to help you to start to think about, for a start, do I invest in going to Goa, or do I invest my time in working this through? Goa
isn't on the cards anyway, so. And my dream here, if it was to happen in the Algarve, was to do the 6-week course.
Yeah.
And eventually to learn how to run a retreat.
Yeah.
So you're the man for the job.
And you're in a perfect place to be able to do that. You're in a perfect place to be able to do that.
So the universe seems to be pointing to here all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as you say, it's a lot to process.
Yeah. So you need time to think about it.
Speak with the husband as well. And
Okay.
A big commitment.
Any other comments or thoughts or questions?
I'm sure I'll think in some.
Okay. You can send me them in if you wish. Rob, it looks as though I've given you. It looks as though I can see the wheel.
You give me an awful lot. I'm going to go for this. I'll tell you that now. I'm of the £500 a month category. I'm 50 years old myself. What I'm looking to do is to transition over the next 10 years out of the day job into the next stage of my own life. And at 55, I have a plan to escape from the accountancy practice in which I'm a partner. So for between now and 55, I would like to take this to the £500 a month stage, to create a solid foundation for me to then take it the next stage further from there. I love listening to you. The way you are structuring your plans and thoughts in life is very akin to my own temperament.
There's the accountancy in you.
It is. It is. And it's funny. Seeing your where I found you was on an advert that popped up on Facebook, and from the moment I saw the advert of niche within teaching for midlife to later years, immediately that resonated with me. Of that's exactly the audience I actually want to teach with, even though I didn't know it was. If that makes sense. I'm doing 3 classes a week at the moment that I'm teaching. They're very, very general. They're very much just everybody and anybody, and that's brought its own challenges. And it greatly appeals to me. As I say, I have quite modest outcome that I want to achieve at this point, but I want to create a structure and an infrastructure. I did this type of thing 25 years ago when I was getting the accountancy firm going, and it paid off enormously and allowed me to create a great life as an accountant. But I'm starting to see the end of that process, and working 5 to 10 years in front of everything, as I always do. I am planning at that point. I want to be completely out of the day job by 60, but I want to, and I'm in a very fortunate position that financially and all that, I will probably be able to anyway, but I want to do something. I want to actually be around something. I want to have something that I love.
This is my retirement plan.
I totally get it. Very clever.
Because and I am so totally with you on that. And that's the other thing that I really love, that I know, and that's why. Here's the other interesting thing about this, that kind of, when I think about when I talked about the growth and the way it changes you as a person, I've held back. This is the first time that I have promoted this desire to teach other teachers specifically to this niche. Before, what I was doing it broad, because I was afraid that I was in my shell, and I was afraid that it wouldn't resonate with that many people, or I was falling prey with that physician heal thyself thing, and it wasn't until that I actually, but what I realized was that that's where my passion lies, and that's where the benefit lies for the students I work with. So, I do get, not very often, but I do occasionally get people who are, my business is yoga over 45. That's how it's marketed, yeah. And it does amuse me, because sometimes I'll get people who ring me up and they'll say, they've seen one of the ads that I place or whatever, and they ring me up and they say, I'm really interested, and I've looked at your website, but I'm not 45. Can I still come? It always makes me laugh, because I end up saying, well, I'm not going to take you. I'm not going to check your birth certificate, but what I just need you to understand that if you were coming, if you're 20 something and you wanting a power yoga, really strong practice, you might get that if you come to my level 2 class, although even then it's much more structured. And again, that's one of the things I'll share with you as we go on. I'll share with you all the ways that I have found have helped to serve my students as I've gone on, that have worked for me. You might tweak it, you might change it, because we're all different, but it gives you a template to begin to work with. But I just don't want those 20-year-olds coming into a classroom and feeling as though they're surrounded by people with what they call 1 foot in the grave, and doing something that's too slow for them, because they're going to feel out of place.
Yep.
So I'm totally honest with them up front, and that's exactly what I say to them. So I'll say, if you want to come, give it, they might have had an injury, or they might have had something that's held them back or whatever, and they say, but it really sounds, and from the conversation that they've had with me, they feel a connection. So they say, but I'd like to just at least give it a try. Okay, come along. But you do a trial session for a £5 and never do a free session ever. Don't you?
No.
Okay? But come along, do a trial session. If it's not right, I promise I won't be offended. Go and find the teacher who might be right for you. Or I know lots of other yoga teachers in the area who might be a better fit for you. Go and try them.
Yeah.
And that way you stay authentic. You develop the skills in the area that you really want to focus on. You know that you're helping the people who you can help the most.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I feel as though now that, as I say, I want you to take this as more inspiration, the fact that this is my 5th iteration of this.
Yeah.
The first one failed completely. And I put loads of effort, loads of work, loads of heart into it. I didn't get a single sign up, not one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think that was?
There is nothing I ask of my students or the people I coach that I haven't gone through too.
Mm-hmm.
Know how it feels. Yeah. And the interesting thing about having you on board, Rob, if you do join me, is I'll probably end up picking your brains as well, because you'll be a lot better. If it ends up getting to, what you'll be good at. It's interesting that my mentors, the current mentors I'm working with now, that I invested in as mentors, and I'm still working with, and have learned a lot from, and some of the ways that I'm structuring my program, I've picked up from them too. But they are ex-bodybuilders, and one of them was an accountant.
I'm an ex-bodybuilder and an accountant.
Oh, wow. Okay. So these guys, there's 2 of them that have built up the business. And I was like you the minute I started listening to their podcasts and all the stuff that they were putting out there. They're just really genuine guys. There's no hype. They give you a really clear process. You can tell Johnny, who's the accountant one, is the one who's the Facebook guru, because he's really into the numbers. You need to be in the numbers in Facebook, otherwise you can waste a hell of a lot of money. You're not going to learn Facebook ads in this part of the program. Okay, you don't need it necessarily. You learn that we touch on Facebook ads, but you won't be on advertising within social media, but not paying for advertising. I'm not covering that at all. I'm still learning that. And it will get to the stage where I am at the stage where if I've got students of mine who are, yoga teachers I'm working with who are getting to the point where they're ready to scale and they're thinking about going online and looking at how they can do that, I know that I'm then going to be able to share what I've learned with them, because I'm trying to master that. That's the next step for me. So the whole ethos and philosophy of how I work with you is the same as how I work with my students. I learn, then I share. I learn, then I share. I grow and I share. And the more you grow, the more you benefit, your students benefit. It's a win-win. And I just remember my mum, and I say this to my students, I remember my mum once saying to me as she became older and frailer, and I've seen 2 parents that became old and frail. I don't want to go that way. And which is, so why, when students say to me, I don't know what motivates you to stay so fit for so long, fear. Fear and building good habits is what does it. Fear and building good habits. And we know what a good habit in yoga can develop. So, I think but I remember my mum saying to me, you have to have a reason to get up in the morning.
100%.
And if I didn't do this, apart from walking my dog, I don't know what else I'd do.
But that
So long I can go on coffee mornings without ending up bored out of my brain.
Yeah. That kind of resonates with me, because I quite like to have a purpose.
Yes.
And since the pandemic and the being made redundant,
yeah,
I've rethought my life, and I don't want to go back to the office. So this is a new venture for me, but giving me a purpose in life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could do all the walks and the coffee mornings I wanted, but as you say, you have to have something else.
I think all the walks and the coffee mornings leave an emptiness for me.
Yeah.
There's a vacuum there. I've spent so long trying to be productive. I've been a coach and a teacher all my life. You know, it's kind of like, if you take that away, I'm not quite sure what's left. Like, you know,
I've seen it with business owners that have built really big businesses up through my day job and then sold them and got the multi-million-pound paycheck and think, amazing, that's all I was aiming for. And the number of them I've seen that do that at 55 and by 60 they're dead.
Yeah.
I've seen loads where that's happened to, and they've got multi-million pounds, and they'll suddenly get divorced, and then they'll end up on drink, and it's happened over and over again to guys I've worked with over the years.
That's really interesting.
That is another thing.
They're
the people I'm trying to save.
There you go. There you go.
Their wives still love them and they don't throw them out.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like
don't go to the drink. There is more to life.
Yeah, I know of a lot of people, you know, with them retiring, it's like they don't have a purpose and their life goes under and they don't feel that they have anything to live for and they die within a few years. It's very sad.
Yeah.
They've been active all their lives and then they've nothing to live for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of happened to my dad. Because
do you know what?
He was forced to retire and he went to the pub.
Yeah. Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is like, guys? And this is why the niching and why niching generally, but this niche in particular, I love so much, because you end up being surrounded by like-minded people. You end up, you know, I've ended up working with the students I was meant to serve. The people that I was meant to actually help. The ones who don't stay with me or who don't come to me, take a look at my website and think, she's not for me. Well, they weren't for me either.
No.
They weren't for me either. Yeah.
Exactly.
I genuinely believe that if you're passionate about something and you've got something that you know is helpful to other people, and to enough of those people, you end up building. I've got the most wonderful community, yoga community. They're just fabulous. I love them to bits.
I think they always are, the yoga community. They're always lovely.
It's an absolute joy. Even on the dark nights when you don't want to go out, you're thinking it would be easier to stay in. Once you're there and you're in front of them, it's a joy. So, guys, is there anything else before we call it a day?
No, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
you very
much. I really am very grateful. Thank you.
And it's been fabulous to meet you. Lovely to meet you, Rob. I know you signed up later, but hopefully do have a look and get back in touch with me if you can't see the recording for the first session as well. The slides should be in there as well. And if I need to, I'll send them separately through the fast mail. All right. In the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.